In San Andreas, you'll sometimes spot pedestrians who appear to perform perfectly normal tasks. For example, a photographer taking shots of the scenery, and then simply walk into a body of water and vanish. For a long time, players assumed this was a design glitch or a leftover map piece like a missing bridge. But a former technical lead, Abi Vermage, clarified that the behavior stems from how the game's navigation nodes are assigned. He explains the NPC finishes its scripted task, then picks the nearest pedestrian node to wander to next. Sometimes that node lies across water from its current location, so the NPC walks into the water, oblivious. So, what we're really looking at is a peek behind the curtain of how Rockstar structured the world for AI movement in San Andreas. There are pedestrian nodes scattered around for AI pathfinding, turning points, wander behavior. The odd behavior occurs because the AI script does not check is there water in between. Or can we traverse this segment safely, but simply uses the nearest node. In other words, the world is logically continuous for the AI, but physically discontinuous in places for human players. That mismatch produces weird, suicidal pedestrian anecdotes. Beyond the anecdote, this highlights two more interesting things. 1. World size versus internal architecture. San Andreas prides itself on large open areas, rural, mountainous, desert, cities. To support that, the internal navigation mesh, or node map, is simplified. The AI doesn't see every obstacle as a human would recognize it. It uses a subset of nodes. This means behaviors that make sense in that simplified graph might look illogical to us. 2. Scripted tasks plus autonomous behavior. NPCs often have a purpose, e.g. the photographer mission or random event. After that, they default to wander. That transition is where these oddities happen. The script ends, the wander logic begins, with its nearest node rule. So it's not a bug in the mission code necessarily, but a side effect of how the world logic hands off control. What seems like a bug is actually the consequence of an underlying architecture design choice. From a gameplay and design perspective, this reveals how complex open-world games manage crowd and pedestrian behavior under hardware years-era constraints, PS2/Xbox/PC 2004. The environment is rich, but the navigation logic is simplified enough to keep performance manageable. The weirdness of some NPCs is basically the cost of that trade-off. Realism versus performance/complexity. It also invites players to see San Andreas not just as a free roam playground, but as a simulation of a system. The roads, buildings, and terrain we see are only partially linked to what the AI sees as traversable. When you spot an NPC doing something bizarre, walking into water, driving off strangely, taking weird routes, you're witnessing the gap between the visible world and the node/graph world underneath.